astrology show that comes out every full and new moon to help you on your mindfulness, meditation, and manifestation journey. If you're new here, I'm Aurora. I've been studying astrology since 2008 and started the show back in 2018. And we're here to talk about astrology. We're here to talk about what the transits of the planets do in terms of energy, how to use that energy for your own benefit, and just to be aware of what's going on in the world. Because I've made a post on TikTok kind of outlining why 2025 is going to be so full of change, but 2025 is destined to be a year of change. There are so many things happening so quickly. And honestly, it's a year unlike any we've ever lived through before in our lifetimes because there are just so many major outer planets that are slow moving, changing signs all in one year. So that really does just foretell that there will be a lot of shifting energy and a lot of changes. And one way that we can kind of keep up with that is by checking in with ourselves during the full moons, during the new moons. Take some time to meditate, understand and contemplate what's going on energetically, how you fit into that picture, and be self-reflective, be self-aware, and set some goals for yourself. We can only control the things that we actually are able to put our hands on and make decisions about. So worrying about what is going to happen in terms of world politics, or just events outside the locus of your control, is kind of antithetical to the work that I'd like for us to focus on here. I want to focus on how we can each align within ourselves, our own internal soul's mission. And I think that astrology charts is one way to help decode that for ourselves and help to sort of define what it is that speaks to us as individuals. And moving through the year, sitting down, being quiet for a little while during the new moon, during the full moon, just gives us this rubric to work with to be understanding of what's happening and be aware of what's coming, and to get into a meditation practice, which is just one of the most beneficial ways that we can check in, feel aligned with ourselves, and open ourselves to some benefits of neurological rewiring, being open to the cosmos to deliver downloads to us, to suggest what might be the best course of action for us. That could come to you during a meditation moment, or you can just give yourself a time to relax and to put all of the worries aside for a little bit and just be in your body and just feel. So if any of that resonates with you, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for watching, listening, sharing the show, and subscribing. So let's get into it. Let's get into this full moon. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can look at this chart for this beautiful full moon in the sign of Cancer. One moment while I share my screen. Um, doo -doo -doo. Here we go. So this is the screen. This is the chart for the full moon in Cancer that occurs on January 13th, 2025 at 5:26 p.m. Eastern. I have this chart set for Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're on the East Coast, this chart will be more or less applicable to you. But if you're somewhere else, just focus on the alignments of the planets and how they might interact with your own chart. If you know what your chart is, great. If not, maybe book a session with an astrologer. I think it's always a good idea to have at least one session with an astrologer once a year to help give you a heads up and some perspective insights onto the changes that are coming your way. But that might not be for everybody. But if you're interested in that, go over to bloodmoonmilk.com, click book session now. And I think I have 25 sessions available for $225 over there if you would like to book a session. Okay, so the full moon is happening at 23 degrees, 59 minutes, which is almost the 24th degree of the sign of Cancer. Full moons are, of course, in opposition to the sun. So the sun is in Capricorn because we're working on this axis of Cancer, Capricorn. And this is the divine masculine meeting the divine feminine. And what's interesting during this full moon, at least to me, is that Mars, which is also a very masculine planet, is retrograde in the sign of Cancer, conjunct this full moon. And whenever I feel like Mars is activating in the sign of Cancer, there tends to be issues around women's rights, reproductive rights, women's health care, abortion. All of these themes start to come out in the media. Um, a, and women start to feel sort of attacked, like their sense of autonomy, bodily autonomy, might be under siege in some places. But it could also just be a time to, because Mars is retrograde, it's a time to be reflective internally and connecting with your own inner feminine. And regardless of what sex you identify with, we all have a masculine and feminine aspect to our bodies, and our magnetic polarities. So just, be open to the idea of softening a little bit. It's generally pretty cold this time of year. It's the perfect time to get your cozy sweater on, make yourself a nice cup of tea and settle in and just relax a little bit, and let the universe come to you. Be in that receiving energy, that feminine energy, versus that go, 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 do, perform, deliver, exhibit energy, which is much more masculine in character. Um, so what's also interesting is that during this full moon, we have Venus. She is sesquisquare to the moon. So that can cause a little bit of trouble, a little bit of friction. She's over here at 11 degrees Pisces. She's exalted in the sign of Pisces. So she loves being where she's at, but she's also really close to where Saturn is at 15 degrees of Pisces. And so she can feel repressed as well. Like Saturn is very masculine and he's restrictive in his nature. Whatever he's coming into close contact with, he tends to restrict and just make it more difficult, more challenging to be fully expressive. So there could be some conflict there. And this can show up not just in interpersonal relationships or in your personal natal chart if you have planets passing over these points, but we can see these things show up financially in the financial markets and in world news events as well. But remember, it's just a passing phase. If there's a bit of conflict there, it's always an opportunity to address that conflict head on and to really be considerate of other people's points of view and how you represent your boundaries and what in your needs in those situations. And you can take this challenge or that, bit of friction as an opportunity to assert yourself, or you know, walk away. Sometimes walking away from something is just better than sitting and muddling through. But I don't think it's going to be that bad this time during this full moon. I think it's more just like a minor irritation, things not being, totally peachy and lovey-dovey and wonderful. It's a little bit more of a reality check, but nothing super serious at this point in time. Um, but what is also interesting is that just a couple of days before this full moon, we have the lunar nodes moving from the Aries Libra axis into Pisces, into the Pisces Virgo axis. So anytime any planet is at that 29th degree, that first degree, we have a heightened intensity of the theme surrounding that. So with Pisces at North Node and Pisces at the 29th degree, that is one of the most difficult degrees in the zodiac. It's the last degree of the entire zodiac, and the North Node energy by definition, is difficult. It's challenging. It is our souls, our collective soul as a species on this planet at this time to embrace spirituality, to embrace the creative aspects of who we are, the things that are somewhat indefinable, the intangible qualities of creativity, of the arts, of spirituality, of togetherness, of divine communion with nature, with the planet, with nature spirits, whatever it is that shows up for you, whatever it is that you feel called to connect with, that's probably where you should, pay a little bit of attention. What's also interesting to me right now during this full moon is that we have Neptune conjunct this north node. Neptune is at home in his sign of Pisces. He's at 27 degrees of Pisces, not quite at that 29th degree, but that connection is very strong between Neptune, the planet of divine love and inspiration, but also the planet of illusion. So while I want to encourage everybody to get creative and connect with their spirituality, also be very aware of issues surrounding delusion and what is real, what is not real. But also with drugs, Neptune really does have an issue with drugs and alcohol and drug abuse. So this is not the best time to really indulge in that escapism because it could get really hairy really fast. It could just kind of go off the rails and spiral out of control a little bit more quickly than at other times. Um, so I encourage you to meditate and to connect with your higher source, whatever that is for you. But maybe just say no to the drugs for a little while because there's just too much going on for that to feel like a safe thing to do right now. So just a heads up. I hate it when I hear about friends or people I know who have, had one, too many drinks or done something that's questionable and ended up, as a statistic. And I don't want that to be the sort of energy that takes over during this full moon because people are feeling uncomfortable because of that Mars conjunct the moon energy. That can lead to a lot of irritation and a lot of discomfort. And aggression, especially with that like minor irritation coming from Venus, it could be really easy to be like, oh, I'm really frustrated. I'm not happy right now. I'm going to go out for a drink with the girlfriends or whatever and indulge into a little bit of seemingly harmless escapism right now, and it actually have far more devastating follow-on effects than it normally would. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that as a potential possibility during this full moon, particularly. And kind of also while Neptune is conjunct close to that north node, I think that it's just better to play it safe than to be sorry for the time being. So dry January is probably a good thing to be doing during this January. I'm actually doing it for the first time, and it's going well so far. I feel very clear-headed, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Um, so what else is going on during this full moon that I think is interesting? Um, we have so this year it's bringing a lot of changes. We still have some planets retrograde during this full moon. Jupiter is retrograde at 12 degrees of Gemini. And he's kind of making this like awkward semi-square to Mars during this full moon too. So, and I don't really love that. Because Jupiter and Gemini, it's big energy. And then whenever there's something that is in conflict with Mars, Mars gets aggressive. And the moon is also very changeable, very sort of moody under this influence with Mars being right there, right on top of her. She's more likely to be a little bit protective of her boundaries and overly protective, maybe, to the point where she thinks she's protecting herself, but really she's being aggressive and attacking. So that's that, like, just be careful. I think that people's limit for what they may be able to tolerate could just be wearing a little thin now. So just be aware that people are out there living their own lives and might be a little bit more fragile than normal. So treat everyone, especially yourself, with a little bit more kindness and patience than you might normally. And just try to slow down a little bit. Mars is retrograde, so take your cue from him. Just slow down a little bit and be a little bit softer, kinder, and more considerate, and veer away from that shadow side, which really is that antagonistic, aggressive of energy that can be possible now. There are some lovely things happening though here. So this Neptune, like I said earlier, he's at 27 degrees Pisces, perfectly trine to the degree, not quite the minute, but to the degree Mars retrograde in Cancer here. So that is beautiful, beautiful, wonderful energy. And I love this intuition mixed with reflection and creativity. And it can also feel like we are being divinely called to create something now, which could serve humanity in some way. And that'll be different for each of us because we'll all have these charts, points somewhere different in our chart. But if you can be open to that experience and channel your energy into being productive versus being destructive now, I think it could really pay off in terms of emotional fulfillment, creative fulfillment. There could be some beautiful inspiration coming through, especially if you are making time to meditate and to slow down and to just feel your feelings and be in your body, and maybe do some writing, maybe go for a walk in nature. It's probably a little too cold to go swimming somewhere if you're in the northern hemisphere, unless you're going in and swimming indoors somewhere, but that could be fun. Um, but I think that is pretty interesting also. We also have another trine going on between Uranus, who's retrograde at 23 degrees Taurus, with Sun in Capricorn at 23 degrees. So that is pretty special, lovely, unexpected energy. So there could be some beautiful developments here that really are just out of left field, that really shake the foundations of the things that we tend to think of as being solid, as being structurally certain and for sure. So I love to see that connection happening. That feels like this cosmic clue that we're on the right path. Even though things might seem chaotic, chaos is part of creation. Chaos and reaction to the things that um, are happening around us can motivate us to rise up and to step out of our comfort zones. And Uranus and Taurus is asking us all to step out of our comfort zones, whatever that is for you, whether it's a traditional 9 to 5 job and to step out into making your own business happen, or to take a hiatus and go travel, whatever your comfort zone is. If you have personal planets in the earth signs at around 23 degrees during this full moon, you could be called to shake things up a bit in a way that might surprise people watching. Um, what else is going on? So, South Node will be in Virgo because that she's opposite where the North Node is in Pisces. And I wanted to say some stuff about the South Node in Virgo because in my experience that South Node goes over personal planets. It can be kind of it can be really difficult actually. We're being asked to let go of the things that are comfortable to us there. And North Node in Pisces is probably the most difficult North Node placement and transit to live through because we're being asked to let go of control. We're being asked to let go of the things that seem practical and make sense, and to embrace the ineffable, the energy, the belief, the faith. It's literally the act of having faith and letting go of those things that seem so certain and tangible. And but during this time period, the next 18 months or so, it's it's realizing that maybe those things that seem tangible and practical and certain are really holding us back on some level. And if we can't let go of those things, whatever they are for you, we can't then receive on the other end because we're so busy clinging to the past. Um, and especially with Virgo, there could also be issues around healthcare too, because Virgo is one of the signs most closely related to healthcare. Um, so yeah, we also have Pluto, which is in opposition to this Mars placement here. So Pluto's here at 1 degree Aquarius. He's in opposition, not exact, it's an out of sign opposition. So if this was at Leo at 1 degree, it would be exact. But it's about 5 degrees away from being exact. So there's still intensity there. I mean, I like to see Pluto um placements being within 2 degrees for me to be like, yeah, that's going to be intense. But I think there's enough going on between the between this Pluto opposition with Mars retrograde, especially because Mars is retrograde, that it feels like there's a bubbling, there's something beneath the surface that hasn't quite come out yet. But I suspect when Mars goes direct, and Mars will be direct. He went retrograde December 6th. He'll turn direct on February 23rd. So I suspect around the 23rd when he starts to move forward again, and then makes that exact opposition with Pluto. I think that's when we're going to see things kind of kick off in a major way. But there could be rumblings and a theme of, like aggression thing, something explosive could be kind of coming to light now. Pluto in Aquarius is all about revolution, and embracing new ideas that benefit humanity. Now, what that might look like for people would vary vastly. But there are some things that just seem like uh obvious things that are good for humanity, things like universal health care and education. Those are the kinds of humanitarian things that are good for humanity that I feel like Pluto will be calling in to help shepherd in on a broader scale. But it's the way those things are implemented that could be somewhat troubling, and how what those things are teaching, whether or not it's done with a really authoritarian hand at first, which it could be. Initially, it's like, oh, well, this is in the guise of everybody's best interest, but really it's just propaganda versus no, we really do just need to make healthcare universally available to everybody, regardless of gender, regardless of health issues in the past, et cetera, et cetera. But just be aware during that transition, things can be really choppy and really volatile, especially while Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of Gemini, because he's all about rhetoric and all about double talk while he's there. And that's a shadow side expression. I think when he goes forward and moves on, like some of these things can shake out and kind of become more on the light side of his expression. But while he's retrograde, he's not always behaving his best. So just be aware of that. We have Mercury. We haven't talked about Mercury yet. Mercury's in Capricorn still. He went retrograde at the end of this November and then at the beginning of December. So when that happened, there was a lot of travel disruptions. I know in the UK there were some terrible storms that happened that threw the trains out of whack for a few days up in the Midlands and the north of England. But that kind of stuff kind of happened in a lot of places. It wasn't just isolated to England. But Mercury was in Sagittarius, which was all about travel. Now he has moved on. He's direct. He's in the sign of Capricorn. And in Capricorn, he really likes to plan. He likes to also see results for all the hard work he's been putting in. So, it's a good time to make connections, put dates on the calendar, and start getting strategic about communications, about traveling, and your messaging. So all of those things can be sort of honed right now in a positive way. But he's not really making much of a connection with anybody. Um, he's let's see what's going on. He's loosely sextile to Venus, but it's not really I mean it's like a weak influence, I would say. It's she's a little too far away from she's 3 degrees away from 7 degrees. If this was closer, I would be more excited about it. But this isn't bad. This is a beneficial influence. Um, what's more interesting, I think, is that he is sesquisquare to Uranus, which, if you think of Uranus as being a higher octave of Mercury, just like Neptune is a higher octave of Venus, it's like the little brother doing the bidding of the big brother in a way, um, and sort of putting us on a track of getting ready to like communicate these surprises. Because I mean, there's that perfect trine with that sun and Capricorn here. Um, and then it's like, but wait, I like Mercury wants to kind of throw a wrench in the works a little bit. So there could be some miscommunication or misrepresentation about what's actually happening. Um, and so make sure that your news sources are factual. Um, believe what you see with your own eyes and experience with your own, body in public places versus what you're being told. Um, I think a healthy dose of skepticism, regardless of what's going on in the world, is just a helpful thing to have those critical thinking skills, and not just gullibly believe whatever is told to you. And to also, when news stories break or when things happen, um, try like after you absorb what that means for you, then take it a step further and try to think about what it means for other people, the people who might not be benefiting, the people who might be losing something, and how that might put them in a disadvantageous situation. Um, so, food for thought there. Um, as always, always, always check what house the moon will be full in for you, because you're likely to be getting some sort of activation around this time during the full moon, because of the lunar transit. So like this full moon will only happen in this house once in the next 12 months. So it's a time where you can take an opportunity to be observant about the things that are bubbling up for you, the opportunities that might be coming up for you. And so just to be ready for them when they present themselves. And then after the full moon, you can start to um, release what no longer works and make space for new energy to come in. But make sure that you are also approaching everything with a sense of gratitude. Because if you wake up in the morning and you are not in some sort of excruciating pain, and you have a roof over your head and you have food in the fridge, you have things to be grateful for. And expressing our gratitude is always the path to more abundance and more gifts from the universe. So humility and gratitude really are the recipe for success in so, so, so many ways. And it's something that can be difficult to always express, especially when you feel like you missed out on something somewhere along the line. But if you can come back to a place of gratitude, especially with this North Node and Pisces energy, I think being really intentional about where we direct our attentions is going to pay huge dividends over the course of the next 18 months. So just be aware of that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen a little bit. Hold on. Do, do, do. Um, Stop sharing. So we're back to just talking me and you. And so I hope my astrological interpretation of this new moon or full moon rather will give you some guidance about the energy to expect. Check where that full moon falls in your chart. If you don't know what that means, maybe book a session with an astrologer. I still have 2025 sessions available. I'm going to offer them until the end of January because after that, the year just starts getting so busy so quickly. But they're available on my website right now for $225 for look ahead at the year 2025. This really is a big year of change, and I want to help people be aware of the kinds of changes that are coming their way. I think this full moon is actually going to be one of the quieter ones. In some ways, it's going to be a moody full moon. The full moon in Cancer is always kind of robust in her emotions. But I think, this whole year is just going to be a fascinating one to live through and to watch. And I want people to feel empowered to make choices and decisions and um, not feel so victimized by circumstances. And I feel like astrology can really help that. Um, so I don't have questions for mindfulness written for you this time. I think instead of sitting with a long list of questions, I just want you to feel this full moon, be in your body and feel things and be observant of the feelings that come up. And don't try to direct your thoughts so much. Where I want to kind of start implementing and embracing that North Node and Pisces energy of leaving the organized behind a little bit and embracing what it actually feels like to just have faith and trust in the energy and in the experience and in our own humanity. Because it really is a beautiful thing, and we are here on this planet getting to live through it. We might not always be happy with what's going on outside of our home, outside of our body, outside of our country, all of those things. But if you can bring your focus in and just focus on yourself, it starts with you. Your energy shift really does show up profoundly in your aura and when you interact with other people. And so it's a ripple effect. If you can be at peace within yourself, in your own heart, in your own soul, in your own mind, and you can move through life in that way, then other people will notice it and feel it and will gravitate towards you. You'll find your place, even if it's just, living alone in the woods like I do. um, so, it's a journey. It really is. But I hope that this full moon in Cancer finds you well, finds you warm. And until next time, I wish you all the best the stars have to offer.